Well, I'm just excited to start this with you. Here's what I'd like to do today. I'd like to cover some technical tips, like how do you use your camera better and things, and then some creative ideas, some things you should never do, and please ask questions anytime. I've got 20 things to tell you, but I can speak faster if you have a terrible question that only you cares about RAW versus JPEG or something. I'm happy to answer that question. So please, and online, Trevor, are you monitoring? Online? Excellent. So hit the raise hand button a few more times if we miss it, but please feel free to ask any question anytime, even if it's not what I'm talking about, because it's probably better. The first thing you got to know is that cameras is dumb. They don't know what a good picture is, despite all the advances in AI and everything that's built into your camera and the interwebs. They don't know what a good picture is. Cameras really only do three things. They focus on stuff. They make things brighter and darker, but they don't make things brighter. They make the whole thing brighter or the whole thing darker. And they can alter the color of stuff. So we can have it bluer or oranger or blue and orange if we're using the Instagram filters and things. So you've got to take control of some of those things in order to get better pictures. And the easiest one to take over is the brightness. Because your camera's so dumb, it doesn't even know the difference between the color white and bright. So when it sees something white, it says, whoa, this should be gray. Let's make it darker. Like, have you ever taken a picture of a receipt on a white table and you can hardly read it because it's so dark? Yeah, cameras is dumb. So you need to tell your camera that this is supposed to be a scene of a snowy day on campus. It's supposed to be bright. It's supposed to be like that bright. There we go. And then conversely, or similarly, it's actually the exact same problem. You have to tell your camera that this is supposed to be a dark picture. I want it that dark. I need it that dark. So here's what we're going to do. And the way you do this is you pull out your phone right now and turn on your camera, which I don't know if you know this. If you've got an iPhone, there's a button in the corner that looks like a camera, and you can press and hold and it goes right to your camera. That's a shortcut. Or if you're on an iPhone, if you've got one without buttons on the front, you can swipe down from the top right corner and there's your camera button right there. Or if you have buttons on the front of your iPhone, you can swipe up from the very bottom and you'll find the camera button in there too. If you have an Android, then talk to somebody else who has an Android. That's what they go by. I jest, but I can AirDrop. So Apple, that's the main thing, right? That's why we have Apples. Not like that's really the only thing that keeps me in Apples is AirDropping my receipts that were poorly photographed on a white table to my laptop so I can load them to ServiceNow. But in your camera, you can do two of the three things I said right on the front. You can focus on things and you can adjust their brightness. So you just tap on the screen, press and hold, and you get this yellow box, which I was gonna screen share because also Apple, but I'm actually not presenting from my Apple, so sorry. This is how we're doing it. Press and hold on your screen, and whatever you tapped on, there's a little sunshine next to it, and you can drag your finger up and down the screen and make your picture brighter and darker.
That's awesome.
That's cool, huh? Now you can make my picture look better on the screen just by dragging your finger down over it, because it sees this and it's like, oh, that's a lovely gray screen you have there. We should make it nice and gray. And then the A tower is all blown out. So you're both focusing by tapping on that. Cause like if I've got this scene going on and I want to have my computer in the foreground, but I want you guys to be in focus, then I can tap on you guys and make you be in focus. Or I can tap on what I see in front of me here on a picture of my laptop or with my camera up front and make that be in focus. And then you guys are kind of out of focus in the back. Also, if you press this if you're on an iPhone, there's a little arrow at the top of your screen that you can toggle up and down, and then you get more options at the bottom. In fact, you'll see there's a plus minus button. And then when you do that, you don't have to tap on the screen. You can just use this scale to drag the picture brighter and darker. So I like that method as well. And then there's like some color filters. There's your timer button, and you can change the ratio of your picture. Incidentally, your camera sensor is a 4:3 sensor in your phone. So using the 4:3 is maximizing the sensor. If you switch it to the 16:9, you're cutting off part of your sensor. So you're getting a smaller picture. Same thing with squared. Whereas if you're using a DSLR or most mirrorless cameras, the sensor in here is a 4:6 shape. So it's 4 units tall and 6 units wide. And that's not 16:9, which the screen on your phone is 16:9. And the screen on your computer might be 16:9, or it might be 16:10, or it could be 4/3 if you're using a CRT television from the 90s. So that's annoying. But you can control things on your phone. Also, that little plus minus button in your camera, you've got a plus minus button on your big camera too. On Nikons and Lumixes and Fujis, they're up here on top. Might be on top on a Sony too. And there's a little plus minus button. And in whatever mode I'm in, I can press and hold that button and turn my wheels, and the picture gets brighter and darker. On a Canon, it's right here on the back. You press the little plus minus button. I think you have to hold it in while you turn the wheel, and your picture gets brighter and darker. That's not bad. Although if you then get a little more sky in your picture, that changes what it thinks. It's like, whoa, it's too bright again. We gotta make this dark. So you gotta tell a bright picture to be bright, and you gotta tell a dark picture to be dark. So I make it plus when I'm photographing the snow, I make it minus when I'm photographing the night sky. Is that helpful? Does that make sense? Okay. Good. Any questions online, Trevor? Yeah. Rock and roll. Tip number 2, which overcomes everything I just told you, is use HDR. HDR stands for high dynamic range. And a high dynamic range scene is one where there's lots of bright stuff. There's a really bright area and there's a really dark area. So when I took this picture with my phone, the entire foreground was in the dark. Like the sun has been down for half an hour at this point. The sky is still quite bright. Our eyes can enjoy that entire scene. Our eyes have an incredible dynamic range. Our cameras do not. They cannot in one picture take in that whole scene. It looks like a black foreground with a light sky. And it's probably too bright in the sky and too dark in the bottom because cameras is dumb. But you can use high dynamic range to take multiple pictures, and then your phone will put them all together right there and blend them into a not bad photo. Here's another version. When I do it with my camera, I've got a setting called bracketing, and that allows my camera to automatically take dark pictures and bright pictures. And then on the computer, it combines them together so that I can see the front of the aspen trunks and also like yellow in the sky back there. This is a very high dynamic range scene. On your iPhones, previously, probably if you still have a button, you've got control over your HDR. There might be a little option in the top left corner next to the flash button. But if you've got a newer iPhone, they took it away. They don't trust us with that kind of option because Apple almost overweighs the AirDrop, but not quite. So you have to go into your settings app and then into your camera app and then into video, because we're taking photographs. You have to go into the video settings and then into the video formats and activate the HDR in order to do HDR photographs on a iPhone lately. However, I don't do that. I just use the Lightroom camera. You can get all kinds of different camera apps from the App Store. I like Lightroom Mobile, which I'll talk about a little more in a second here. And then it lets me I can turn on and off the HDR in my app, and I can shoot raw files, and I can control the color and the brightness. Here's another one. It was very dark in the canyon, light in the sky. I took 7 pictures and combined them together on the computer. to get that result. This one, I like this one a lot for like a demonstration picture. It's an okay picture. It's got a strong foreground element, which we'll talk about later. But on the, like, if you look at the screen back there, you can actually see detail in the dirt under the bush. And you can see detail in that cloud. Like, it's not just a white blob. That's an extreme range of dynamicity that the camera can't see on its own. So using the multiple pictures combined together gives me that ability. Why do you don't need that. Like, we live for, actually, like, color film has this built in automatically. You kind of can't overexpose it, which is cool, but it's a cool thing. I use it all the time on landscapes. Like, pretty much every time I take a landscape, I do it as a bracket and I combine the photos together, and then I make it too dark to see into the shadows anyways. I don't know why I do it, but I like doing it because I also like using apps. And the thing about apps is that they allow me to finish a photograph that I like in a way that I like. They, like, the world isn't black and white with a blue and orange tint to it, but I kind of like the world black and white with a blue and orange tint to it, so I can add that on my photo afterward. The thing apps don't do is they don't make your picture better. Like, turning that picture black and white doesn't make it into a good picture. I need a good picture that I can then finish off, put a little rub on the outside as I finish it in the smoker. So I'd like you to make a picture that you like and then finish it so you love it. Not make a picture that you like and then put it in the filters until you kind of start to like it because you're just fooling yourself. I'm a snob, I already told you this. Let's make good pictures and then finish them off instead of trying to filter them to death. So here's the apps that I use. I use Lightroom Classic, which you all have access to. You get the whole Adobe suite. If you don't have access to it, you just need to go onto ServiceNow. There's an IT box in the bottom left corner. You can search Adobe once you're on the IT website and it'll come up and you just have to request it and then they give it to you. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and you have like Premiere Pro and all.
You get the video editing, you get the full Photoshop, you get the whole.
Animate too.
Yeah, animate, you get the 3D stuff, you get all the graphic design tools that nobody knows how to use. Everything is available to you if you just request it. I can't even open a photo in Illustrator or a thing. I can't. I don't even know what they're called. But I have access to Illustrator. And you can get Lightroom or you can get Lightroom Classic. I like Lightroom Classic. It works on my computer. Lightroom on its own used to be called Creative Cloud, but they're Creative Cloud. They're trying to get us to use it more. So they call it Lightroom, but it's a cloud-based software. You have to upload your photos. I have too many photos to do that. So I use Lightroom Classic on my computer. And then I like Lightroom Mobile is free. And when you log in using your same login for Adobe, which is your single sign-on, you can synchronize photos. So you can work on photos on your computer and make them beautiful and then sync them to your phone. So when somebody says, oh, you're a photographer, would you like to photo? Oh, well, let me show you. And they're right here on my phone all the time. So that's cool. I like Luminar if I'm not, it's a very approachable tool and there's a free trial. I've sold it, like I've helped develop that one. So I might be biased, but it is a really good tool that is very approachable. Whereas Lightroom, you're gonna cuss a lot and not understand why it works this way. But Luminar is very intuitive. Photoshop is not intuitive, but it's really good at switching heads in a photograph. So that's about all I do with it. And I use the AI tools in there to say, add leaves to these trees in the background. And it works, except it usually adds people also, which is weird. Because like the thing it does the worst, it's always trying to do. So it's a cool tool too. Any questions? Apps that we use? Make a good photo and then finish it off. That's my advice, because I'm a snob. And I don't mind telling you, because it's how I live. Let's talk some creative tools. where you put the camera is called perspective, where I was talking about getting a new perspective, getting a different perspective. That means actually moving your body. You can't change your perspective just by zooming your lens in and out, or choosing the 0.5 or the 3x on your phone. You've got to move. Does anybody know where this is? Is that like, have you been to the Alps? Me neither, but I've been downtown Salt Lake. This is City Hall in Salt Lake City.
I was about to
And-
say, that's not the Alps.
Yeah. But it kind of feels like the Alps to me, having never been there. And it wouldn't feel like the Alps if I was looking up at it, looking up the nose of the building from the street level. As it happens, we were in the Quest Tower next door where the president or CEO used to be on the foundation or the board of trustees. So we were interviewing him for a photo for a thing, and while waiting for him, I got to shoot a time lapse of this out the back. So that was really fun. And I got my camera in a cool place, and that makes a big difference. Any questions? Okay. The biggest thing about perspective is that you need to get closer. I guarantee you are not close enough in your pictures. Once you get closer, and once you're close enough, take 2 steps closer and get in there. You're just not close enough. Rarely do we need to see the whole thing. This is a cherry blossom. Where does it grow? On a tree, right? We know this about it. I don't need to see the tree, but if I want to see some really cool details of the blossoms, I need to get close. I don't even need to see the whole flower. Look at that, I cut it off, top and bottom. I'm just saying, you can get closer. You should get closer. We understand the whole because of what we include, not because we see the whole thing. If you watch TV tonight, you are not going to see anybody's feet in the TV show you're watching. I can almost guarantee you. You might see like one establishing shot of the whole thing where somebody's walking down the street, and then everything else is going to be like, you wouldn't even see the top of their head. Try it. Call me if I'm wrong, but I'm telling you, you're not going to see the top of people's heads on television tonight. And we're used to that intimate close-up view. We see a goat, we see a rope, we see a cowboy hat, we know what's going on. If you're from around here. I showed this in New York and people weren't quite sure what was going on, so. Exactly, yeah. That's our road. I don't know if you guys know that we have 2 rodeo teams at Utah State. We have one in Price, which is extremely, like, if you're interested in rodeo, you should go to school at Price. And then our Logan team is also very, very good. We also have scientists who examine rocks that were dug out of the earth without exposing them to sunlight. And so they're working on them in a dark room. And I don't need to see the top of the guy's head to know all the important things about this picture. Get in close. And not only do we get like more emphasis on the important stuff going on, but we also get more intimate, especially when you get a little lower and shoot upward. Because this worm's eye view means that you've got special access. So if you're making pictures of people in your department doing things, get in there and show us special access. Anybody can make this picture. I can stand 15 feet away with my 85mm lens and photograph these guys doing their thing over there. That's not special. It's useful. I like it. But this is like, not everybody gets to be in there holding the skulls. And now I'm in there. My viewers are in there. I'm about to grab the magnifying glass and look at it. Get in closer and show us something that not everybody gets to see. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Especially with stuff that's low. If I photograph this guy kneeling down with a bird on his knee, and I walk over and I look down at him and I take a picture, or I walk up with my phone, I go, oh, that's cool, hold that bird, nice. Did you know birds are camouflage? So all you really see is a bunch of dirt on the ground. It's hard to see a bird against the ground. Getting down here puts him up. It also makes it, well, partly because I'm using a wide angle lens, which we'll get to, it makes it more intimate and it makes the bird stand out more. But with kids, and flowers. Get down on par and photograph where they are, what they see. Show me the world that they're enjoying. And your pictures of kids will be so much better than walking up and going like this with grass behind them. I'm not as young as I used to be. I used to spend a lot of time on my knees photographing kids running around parks. Now, I can flip out my screen and photograph kids like this and get a backache instead of having my knees cracked all afternoon.
So Alexis on the chat says, is it awkward to get closer to people or hard to do in situations where you shouldn't get close?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you're in a situation where you shouldn't get close, you probably shouldn't. But here's what I do. That's a great tip, question, Alexis, and I hope you'll forgive me. But I go like this, Ben, let's make a picture. Let me take my lens cap off so it's better. And I'll be like, okay, so they're just like you are. Oh, that's good. Now kind of try, yeah, that's it. Look down at my toes for just a second while I fiddle around here. That was a good one. Let's do something else here too. Okay, now look at your computer and tap away on that. That's good. Oh yeah, that's nice. Oh, I like that a lot. Start farther away and work it in. Because if I walk up and say, Ben, let's make a picture. Most people are comfortable with that when I'm not holding a camera. And so, yeah, start back and work in. And I could make a living with this 85mm lens from here. I could do that and getting a little closer. But when I put on the wide lens next, I always start telephoto and then work in closer. And it's I don't know if it's more comfortable, but it's more permissible. Does that help, Alexis? That's a great question. On things where you shouldn't be closer, just ask. People, like, you have a camera, especially if you have a big camera that's not a phone. They already know you're a wacko. Why'd you spend so much money on that thing when your phone already makes great pictures? So they expect you to ask for insane things. You might as well say, hey, do you mind if I get a little closer? Start by, yeah, let me get closer. Can I just photograph your hands? Yeah, that's easy. Bam, I'm on his face. So it's easier to start back. It's easier to start with something less personal. And I can work in closer with things.
So on lenses, how do you feel about the Nifty 50?
How do I feel about the Nifty 50? I love the Nifty 50. I haven't used one in 7 or 8 years. A 50mm lens that you buy for your SLR or your mirrorless camera, you can get one for $50 and it's got a bright wide aperture. That wide aperture makes stuff out of focus. Like those guys are out of focus because I'm using a very wide aperture on this lens while the bird's head is in focus. That helps me set things apart. That's what my phone can't do. That's why I still have a job, because phones can't do this.
These ones have portrait mode.
They have portrait mode, which puts everything out of focus and his fingertip.
Yeah.
Right? Like you don't really get to control what it says is or isn't a person when you do portrait mode. I like it. It's a cool tool, but it's just software. I mean, I could do that in Photoshop, right? That's all it's doing. So I love the Nifty 50. It's a terrific thing. My favorite thing about it is that it's not a zoom lens. So zoom lenses, we can twist and it goes wider, and then we twist and it goes tighter and removes some of the world and shows us more of the world. That doesn't change perspective though. Moving our feet changes perspective, and using non-zoom lenses makes you change your perspective more. And I like the way that a prime lens, which doesn't zoom, forces you to change your perspective a lot. And I love that about a Nifty 50. I also love that it's $50. And you can get a Yongnuo 50mm lens for $50 on Amazon, or $100 for the Canon or Nikon version, Sony, whatever. I don't like a Nifty 50 because now we've got this cool out of focus background lens, and we're coming in here and we're making headshots, and everybody's noses are too big and their foreheads are exaggerated. And the babies, God bless them, their foreheads are like half the frame because we're using a 50mm lens when we should be using an 85mm lens or a 100mm lens. So I think it's a great lens. Everybody should buy one. I haven't used one in a long time because I like to force myself to move around with this lens and with this lens, this wider lens. So I actually could make a good living. I could make a living with an 85mm lens. I could make a good living with a 35mm lens and an 85mm lens, which might make you think that I could just get a 24-70, but that's even worse than a 50 in my work. Everybody loves a 24-70mm lens. I don't. I bought it 3 times and I just don't see the world that way. Like I want it a little wider and I want it a little tighter and I want it brighter. I want a bigger aperture. The 2.8 is just not that. Anyway, they're all good. Everything's good. Your camera's great. Your lenses are terrific. And as I've got 20 tips here, but there's 4 tips to make you a better photographer. If you do these 4 things, you'll be ahead of everybody. The first thing is take a lot of pictures, like 100,000 in a year on your DSLR. You'll learn to see with that lens and you'll learn to know that I'm putting on this lens. And when I do, this is what I'm going to expect to see with it. You'll get used to having a view through a camera. You should look at a lot of pictures because then you'll know just how bad yours are compared to all the good ones out there. And I don't mean Instagram. Instagram is good, but
That's the opposite. You see a lot of bad.
exactly. You see a lot of bad stuff that you start thinking is good. It's like breakfast cereal. The more you eat it, the better it seems to, it's bad, man. I should not be eating breakfast cereal. But the more I eat breakfast cereal, the more I think it's Instagram. Breakfast, I haven't said this before. I think this is real. You should look at curated pictures that somebody who knows what good pictures are agrees with. You should go to the art museum. You should look at books that have been printed on paper. That's a serious effort to print a book on paper. Click like and get my free ebook is not a serious effort, and nobody has to curate that. So I would highly recommend looking at a lot of good pictures. You should be in pictures, especially if you want to. This is not good news. Okay. Did we lose Zoom?
No, we're good.
You sure?
Yeah, it didn't even go
Okay.
down on.
Okay, it came back up. Sorry, all the screens just went black. Zoomers. You should be in pictures because then you'll know just how miserable everybody else in front of your lens is. You may not say, "Oh no, I bought the camera so I don't have to be in front of it." But I do. But you want me to be in front of it? That's not fair. You should be in a lot of pictures, and not only will you understand everybody else's pain, but you'll also learn to understand what it feels like to be in a pose, to be in a position, and it'll help you work better with people to understand how it feels. Most of the time, when I'm making pictures with students, I say, sit there and just hang on, let me show you what I mean. Sit here kind of like this, and you guys kind of angle toward, it's so much easier to show somebody what I want them to do than to say, sit there and straighten up your back a little more and hold your phone at this angle and then tilt your head a little this way. Yeah, a little that way. That's good. Keep tilting. It's miserable. You can't direct these things. You should show these things. So I think you should be in pictures. And then the 4th thing is you should read your manual because then you know what's in your manual. I don't think you need to know everything that your manual says. I just think you need to know that it says it so that when you have an idea or a question, you're like, oh, I think I saw something about that in my manual. Now I can Google it. But if you don't even know that your camera is capable of taking pictures repeatedly every 5 seconds and only adding the differences in light, you'll never know that you can make amazing star trail pictures downtown Salt Lake City without blowing out the bill. I did this the other day. For the first time, I've had a camera that could do it for 7 years, but we needed it for a magazine article. And I knew my camera could do it, but I hadn't had an opportunity to utilize it. So I used my manual, figured out how to do it. But if I didn't know my camera could potentially do that, I'd be making more bad downtown Salt Lake City pictures like I always have. So those 4 things. Take a lot of pictures, look at a lot of pictures, be in a lot of pictures, and read your manual. Just put on the back of the toilet, read a page. It's good. Oh, I skipped it. Was that a question or was that just me rambling? Okay. Thanks, Jonathan. Tip number 6, shoot horizontally. Phones are the bane of my life. We hold phones like this to talk on them. And so they also told us that we should hold them like this to take pictures. Andrew, you know what I'm talking about. We did not need vertical photos. Do this, open your arms up wide as they go, without tickling each other on the sides. But kind of wiggle your fingers and find where your hands disappear in your peripheral vision. So look straight ahead and see how wide your view is. Mine's about right there. Okay. Now do it vertically and find your width of view. Mine's about right there, which is fully half of what my wide view is. Movie theaters know this. They show us wide movies. As soon as Steven Spielberg shows me a vertical cinema movie, I will start shooting vertical videos, vertical picture, the things we're talking about, photographs. This is how we see the world, and it's so much better. It's so much more enjoyable. And we don't need toes and belly buttons. Do you know how many belly buttons are in photographs since we started using phones vertically? I don't need you to look at my belly button. So turn your camera, you just hold your phone and you go like this. Good technique. And then you tap on something to focus on it. And so turn your camera horizontally. Web pages are horizontal. If even on my phone, if I have to see a vertical photograph that interrupts my text and I can't even see the whole photograph as I scroll, it's miserable. I want to see horizontal photographs. And did you know, if you're looking at Instagram, you can also go like this and do Instagram horizontally. I dare you. I'm going to start doing it. I'm going to start posting horizontal pictures on Instagram. They used to
That's the most cursed thing I've learned in this seminar.
that's the worst idea ever. Yeah, like people are kind of throwing up a little in their mouth right now at watching Instagram horizontal. It's okay. Just don't watch Instagram. I think we decided that already because it's not curated. Thank you, Savannah. Where are we at? Horizontal. Also shoot panoramas. Like if wide is good, really wide is really good. So take your phone, and this is when it's okay to use vertical because you turn on your camera and at the bottom you swipe to the side and there's a pano option. And now you press and hold the button and turn your body and make a panoramic video or photo.
For like keeping your camera steady while you do that, because I can't.
Right? It's horrible. It's like up and down all
Less
over the place.
caffeine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's caffeine. Savannah asked, what are some tips for keeping your phone steady while you do it? The best tip I have is to start at the end. So if I've got this scene in front of me, I don't know, you tell me, you watch and see what happens. But most of us start on the left and go to the right. But we start like facing where we're starting. And so we start over here and then we twist to the right. And now I'm all twisted. If I start at the end of the photo, I'm gonna draw into my more stable position. And that usually works better for a lot of people. So start facing the end of your panorama and you'll probably have a better experience keeping the horizon level. I shoot them on my phone sometimes, but I shoot them with my camera. And this is another thing you could do, Savannah. You could take individual photographs and then put them together in software. There's software on your phone that'll do it. I use Lightroom to do it on my computer. This is when it's good to shoot vertically because I have to overlap each frame 25%. And as I twist through, even though I start at the end, as I twist, you typically rise or fall and you end up with this sloping looking picture after it puts it together. And so when you shoot vertically, you get more room in the sky and more room in the bottom to crop it and make it, because you're shooting each picture vertically, but it comes together into a horizontal picture. Is that clear? I feel like I said that poorly, but it leaves me more room to mess up above and below. So I start at the end, I face my body to the end of the picture, I turn my camera vertically, and then I turn on the grid view in my camera, which I can also turn on in my phone. So whenever I look at my phone, I have a tic-tac-toe grid on in my view, and I use the right-hand line. And whatever the right-hand line is on, I move the left-hand line to that spot. And that's 30% overlap. And then I do it again and just move it that much. And there's a tree on that line. So I move the other line to that tree. And that gives me the proper amount of overlap and allows the software to blend things together well. Is that helpful? Any questions? My photo and my photographer in Seattle's calling. Yeah, like shooting horizontal, man. It's just like you're in there. It looks really good. And it feels really good. Like the horizontal is just so much more natural. Yeah.
So with like photography and everything like that, you learn about the rule of thirds. Do you feel like that does apply, or are there exceptions to that, or?
Yeah, there's like the rule of thirds is a great thing, and we're gonna talk about it a lot in just a minute.
Okay.
Is that okay? Can I put it off for just a second? Good, because right after you shoot horizontally, you should shoot vertically. The best time to make a vertical picture is right after you make a horizontal picture. Especially because posters, and it turns out Instagram is vertical. And if I want to share pictures in a lot of different ways, I have to also shoot vertically. And otherwise, I'm out of luck. However, if I do headshots and I turn my camera into, what's it called? Portrait orientation? What a stupid name. If I shoot portraits vertically, but it turns out I need a horizontal picture of that person, I can't do anything about it. But if I shoot them horizontally and now I've got room on the sides, I can crop that vertically and have their face in the middle of the frame, and that's easy. So when we make a headshot together, it's gonna be horizontal because it can be cropped square or vertically. But if I shoot it vertically, I can't do anything about it. But posters are vertical, Instagram is vertical. There's a lot of vertical things. And so we just need to do that also. Here's the vertical. I showed you the other one. Did I show you the other one? That one? Yeah. So it's not as good. Like it doesn't show me the rocks leading up to it. I don't have the environment around it, but it's really useful. I can't do a horizontal magazine cover for you. Well, maybe we'll experiment. Maybe we'll push the boundaries of Instagram a little farther and see what we could do on a horizontal cover. So not only do I need to shoot horizontally and vertically, but I need to shoot left and right when I'm doing it for, well, I do it for everybody. When I photograph families, I put Susie on the left and I put Susie on the right, because what if mom wants to use it on her blog and she needs something on the left side? This is what our designers do all the time. They say, come study, he studies cybersecurity in Tooele. Come study cybersecurity. But this time we want it on a postcard and we need it on the other side. So we put it on the other side of the thing. So every time I make a picture, there's a bunch of, like if you look at my photos, there's a whole bunch of bad horizontal pictures, and then I figure it out. And now it's doing what I want it to. And now I've got horizontal with the subject on the right, subject on the left, vertical with room above, vertical with room below, and also center of both of those two. And so you just have to shoot them all if you're doing things for publication and for use in designs. Using a different lens is such a great way to do a completely different thing, and it changes the way we see the world. Okay, look at here. We've got this rack of shelves over here. We've got the corner of the table over here. Now, if we switch to a wide angle lens, if you hit the 0.5 on your phone, look at the difference. I'm standing in virtually the same place. We see way more space over there. There's that rack of shelves is right behind his head. And we've got so much more environment showing the whole place he is. But it's also more in focus. A wide angle lens puts more of the world into focus. Whereas the telephoto lens makes it really easy to make the background blurry, which makes our subject stand out. So instead of using portrait mode, hit the 2x or the 3x on your phone. I don't have that, but I've got the 0.5 now. I feel like I upgraded a couple of years ago and it's good. But change your lens and stand in a slightly different spot if you need to. But we see more of the world with the wide angle lens, and we see less of the world, but a much more flattering view of a human with the telephoto lens. you can see both his ears. And if I tried to use my phone to make a picture with your head in a headshot type of situation, you wouldn't be able to see your ears and your nose would be large. Because when you get closer to stuff, you can't see around it as much. You know, if you stand far back from a building, you can see both sides. The closer you get, the less you see at the sides. Same thing with the face. We almost can't see his ears here because they're hiding behind the rest of his face. And also look at the size of his hands. They're nearly as large as his face, whereas here they're less than half as large as his head. And so I get a more normal view with the telephoto lens, whereas a wide angle lens increases the foreshortening that we see. Like when I look at Ben, he's bigger than Trevor, who's just 6 feet away. And that tells my brain that Ben is closer to me. If I was a pirate with one eye or an eye patch on, I could still tell that Ben is closer. And this is what my camera is, by the way. It's a one-eyed thing. It can't see binocularly to tell the distance of stuff. So we have to use foreshortening to tell how far away things are. Like from this picture, we could see that those shelves behind him are maybe 15 feet away. From this picture, we can't tell if it's 4 feet or 15 feet. It compresses the distance, whereas the wide angle lens expands the distance. But it also makes things that are closer to the camera much larger, like his armrest, his hands are much bigger. Even though his hands are only 8 inches closer to me than his face is, they're much larger because of that foreshortening effect. Is that okay? Any questions on lens choice? I think you should use lenses and choose different ones. Do different things. So talking about composition things, the rule of thirds was, let's say your name again.
Josh.
Josh, thanks Josh. The rule of thirds is a handy tool for helping us arrange the objects in our photographs so that they're naturally interesting to our viewers. Maybe you've heard of this. Basically, you just draw a tic-tac-toe grid on your photograph. Each of these lines is a third of the way from the edge or the bottom of the frame. And things that fall on those lines are naturally, for our brains, more interesting. And you can crop a photo, like it's allowed, we're not photojournalists, we can crop pictures so that they look good. So if I shot the Space Needle in the middle of my frame, I can crop it so it's not in the middle of the frame anymore. But if I put it at the intersection of those lines, it's even better. It's even a little more impactful. And so using those intersections, that's where I put people's faces. That's why when I photograph somebody's headshot, I do it horizontally also, because now their eyes can be right on that third. There we go. I can put his eyes on the third. And if it was up to me, I'd cut the top of everybody's heads off. There's nothing up here we need to share. And there's nothing going on down here I need you to see either. So by shooting horizontally, I can put your face in a good spot in the frame. Now, when we make a headshot for canvas, they want to see the top of your head. So I back up just a little more and you see the top of your head. But it's a nice view. It's very intimate. It looks like he's interested in me when I'm looking at him. And I like that a lot. If I turn the camera vertically and do this, to get your eyes at that important part of the frame, I have to include your belly button all the way down there. And I've got all this space above your head too. That's not important. And so I can get way more impact, especially because we use these pictures on our email signature and it's about 3/8 of an inch big. And we use them on our LinkedIn profile and it's tiny. And so I want to get as much impact as I can right away. More rule of third examples for you. Here it is on the thirds. When we do horizon lines, horizons should go on the thirds. So here I'm using the upper third on the upper horizon. Like this scene has 2 horizons. We could put it right here on the river. We could use that lower one where the river joins the ground. But now I can say, go on our spring break trip to Portland in words down there. So it can be a very useful picture.
I'm glad I'm in here because I remember when I took digital photography in high school, many years ago, when cameras had 3.5 megapixels and that was great.
Right?
I was always taught the rule of thirds was you never use the lines, you use the spaces except for the center.
Oh, interesting.
But again, that was,
I
that
would,
was the thing
yeah,
back then, I don't know.
right.
but-
yeah, so he said that the rule of thirds meant using the spaces, but not the lines. And, I can just disagree with that idea.
No, I agree.
And-
You, it's so much better.
And I empathize too, because I don't know what I learned in high school, but I had to learn it all again when I bought a camera 12 years later. So, not to blame my high school, maybe. I like this one a lot. We're also drawn to the bright things in a photograph. And so like, if you've got a bright little corner of sky sticking down in the edge of your photo, that's all we're gonna see. We're gonna look at the picture and go right to this little tangential thing that we don't really wanna focus on. So in this picture, I used the brightest spot, which is this rock right here where there's this highlight, and it's surrounded by that bright cloud. And I put those on the third. And then I also put my favorite rock to climb over there on the right side on the other one. And like we talk about keeping the viewer in the picture. And so we're drawn first there, and then we've got things to look at, and it draws me over here. I can come closer and I can kind of wander around the, it's artsy fartsy, but it's really effective. And so try doing it. Use this rule of thirds idea to make your photos more interesting. It's an empty screen. Where do you put the people? Like, it's all grass, right? It's all bushes. There's nothing in particular to see except the people. Put them on the third, and you'll have a little better result from it. Also, I put the horizon at that. Oh, it's like 1/4 of an inch too low. It's okay. In my Lightroom settings, there's this overlay when you crop as well. You can have the rule of thirds on there. I've switched it to the golden mean ratio instead of the rule of thirds. That's how advanced I am. Then it's good. There's swirls. You can put the swirl on. You know, I don't know how to use it, but it's available. Sometimes I think I know how to use it. I don't know how to use it. We can do a lot of things. So she's all on there. We did the eyeballs. Oh, look, bam, rule of thirds. What do you think? Can you start to see the thirds? The A tower is in the center. That's better, right? Oh, but it's still on the third, even though it's in the center. If I put people's eyeballs right in the center of that frame right here, it would be terrible. It would look like a passport pictures. Passport pictures are the definition of bad. They tell you to put the eyes right in the middle and leave all this white space around here and cut them off. And it feels like somebody's like, keep moving into the frame because they're not in a focus point. It's clearly not that we were trying to make a picture of the person. If we were, we would have moved them into the picture. So, yeah. Oh, and on this one, I use the trees as a horizon. And it feels good to me. I like this one. I didn't take this one. This is maybe the only one I didn't take. Andrew Diamond took this one. And he framed it up nicely. Look at that. We've got this implied horizon down here, and it's like a distance horizon. Like we've got stuff that's real close, stuff that's in the middle, and then the way back. And those lines help delineate the differences in our screen this way, in our frame. Close counts. Like, yeah. It's a little off to the side, but I like it. That's okay. You're allowed to like things. There's a horizon in the roof line here. Oh look, there's none. Bam. I put people's faces on the lines. Where's your eye go? What did you see first? Bam. Bet you looked right at her smile. Because she's looking at us and she's smiling, which are also cues for human brains to look at. And she's also in that spot. Any questions on rule? Does that help, Josh? Is that validating?
Yeah.
There's other ways to compose photos too. I didn't study photography, so I don't know what they are. But if it looks good, it's good. And this is the step in the right direction to help you get there. And I've cropped to this a lot. Now I can see when my competitions, I've made over 1 million photographs. And so I can see it a lot faster than I used to could. So also have things close, middle, and back. I talked briefly about that in that other photograph, but there's foreground things that are larger and more detailed. My focus is kind of in the middle ground back here, and then there's background and way background to give us something to continue to look at. I often make very flat photographs, like here, foreground, middle ground, or foreground, background. That's it. Like there's not even a background. There's just a subject in a field of white. It's okay. Like there's building and clouds. It's okay, but it's much more. Makes me feel like an artist when I have depth in my photograph, and when I plan it and it works out after all, it makes me really feel like an artist. A strong foreground element can help you have that front, middle, background as well. If you look at this picture without the flowers at the bottom, it's okay, you know, Tetons, yeah, easy. But I get a lot more sense of space and environment when I have a foreground element. And it can make a boring picture almost worth looking at. I wanted the sun sparking up back there. I mean, it's just a, you know, dead rock on dead grass with a kind of pretty sunrise, but it's way better than it was with nothing in the foreground. This is especially true when you use a wide angle lens. Like your phone default is a wide angle lens. So try and have a foreground element, some kind of object. Doesn't really matter what it is, it's better than not having it. Oh, also, I like sunbursts. I think it's fun. There's just one thing you need to do to make it happen. You need to make the light small. And if you're using a camera with a controllable aperture, you should use a smaller aperture. You can make the light small by obscuring it behind things, like that Aspen picture when you were talking about HDR and the sun was sparking in the background. You just scooch over a little bit until the sun is just barely peeking out from behind the tree or from behind the rock or behind the cloud. And that makes the source of light smaller, and you'll instantly get sparks like that. You'll get the sun rays. You could do it just behind somebody's head when you're sitting on the grass having a picnic and the sun's going down. Just kind of peek your phone around until the sun is mostly obscured, and you'll get these starbursts. The other way to make the sun smaller is by using a wider lens. So switch to 0.5, and the sun is now smaller because of that foreshortening. It expands the distance. It makes things far away look even farther away. So having the sun a little bit smaller will make it more sparky. Except now it's the sun, so it's too bright. So now you're gonna have to use HDR. So your foreground has, you can tap on the sun and darken everything so that you can see. Get a lot of skills in this class. It's good. It's good. Foreground stuff, yeah. Not really a back, middle, front, but kind of, you know, gives it some depth to have foreground things. Okay, where should you photograph? You should photograph on your campus. Holy cow. I've been to like 27 of our 30 campuses and centers in Utah, and they are all in really good looking places. And you should not buy a lens. You should buy a tank of gas instead and drive around the valley, whichever valley you're in, and make some photographs. Yeah, it's a gorgeous place. Also, consider taking a different route to get to work, whether you drive a different road or whether you walk a different route across campus. It'll make you more creative, just thinking of that. Getting lost a little bit, it'll help prevent Alzheimer's, and it'll make your brain more creative, seeing new things around you. I bet there's a hallway in your building you haven't even walked down, let alone every building on campus. So try finding a different route, leave 5 minutes earlier. Ben may have been, yes. Yeah, well, these are all from lands owned by the university in Cache Valley. I love it. Also, you should photograph people working. People doing things that they're good at always makes a good photograph, especially when you give us access that we don't usually get. We don't usually get to see scientists pushing buttons on stuff. So when you get in close and show us the close-up view of something happening, it's going to be a better picture every time, almost no matter what. And then showing people who are passionate about what they do is even better than people who are good at what they do. This lady made drinking water for 80% of Utahns at the dam at Jordanelle. This is where all the water for Salt Lake Valley and Utah Valley all comes from. And she engineers the processes that make that all happen. So she's very passionate about that whole system. And I really like this photograph of her because she's passionate. It makes things better.
Yeah, that's it, thanks.
Oh, thank you. Oh, we're done. You can go. Or if you give me 4 minutes, I'll be done. Is that okay? All right, we're going into lunch, is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, Trevor. Sorry, I talked too fast in the last one, too slow this time. Get up early, because light at the horizon looks better. Light from a table lamp looks better than that dumb bulb in the center of the ceiling. Get light coming from the side, which happens early and late. Zoom in. My favorite landscape lenses are my telephoto lenses, not my ultra wides, because I can make nondescript things look much cooler by closing the distance between me and them. Photograph flowers. What's the asterisk for? It's on par. Don't photograph down on flowers. It's almost never great. You'll get excited because you use your nifty 50 and the background's all blurry, but the background's still dirt. So get down low and get closer. Look how close I am. You can't even see is it a flower? Are you sure? You can't see the whole thing. You sure it's a flower? I'm sure. Here's the tip 17. Don't even photograph wildlife. It is not worth it. It is not fun. You have to buy expensive tools. You have to get up even earlier than getting up early. You have to learn all kinds of science about where they're going to be, when they're going to be there. And then there's all this time in the middle of the day when they're not moving and the light's bad and you can't even photograph them anyway. So you're sleeping on the side of the hill in the dirt with ants, just waiting for something to happen. Don't photograph wildlife. It's expensive. Don't photograph birds. They're the hardest wildlife. They are the hardest thing out there to photograph. Sports, also expensive, but you get lots and lots of good opportunities with sports. Like sports is like expensive. I say that, I'm bad at sports. Sports are very fun to photograph. If you're interested in sports, you'd probably enjoy it more than I do. Because you know it's gonna have like, you know what sports means, yeah. But birds are the hardest thing because they're fast, they are scared of you, and you still need really expensive tools to make it happen. But if I was gonna photograph birds and wildlife, I would put the sun behind me when I photograph them. So they're not a silhouette, for one thing, and mainly so that they have a twinkle in their eyes. Look at that, look at that. It's terrible. There's no spark in his eyeballs at all. And because he's got the sun behind him, I don't see the sun reflected in his eyeballs. When the sun is reflected in their eyeballs, they look like they're alive. They don't look dead. That vitreous quality in their eyeballs shows us that a bird is alive. And on a bird that's black, that my camera is saying, whoa, this needs to be a gray bird, a red-winged gray bird. You're trying to make the picture black because that's what color the bird is. You need that little twinkle in his eyeball to show that he's not dead on the limb. Also, I do the same thing with people. I won't even take your picture if there's not a light reflected in your eyes. I'm that much of a snob. And so I put a light in your eyes. I turn on a flash, I use a reflector. I stand with Huntsman Hall to my back because it's a giant reflector in the afternoon, or a bread truck or a minivan, and have you standing in front of it with the light behind you reflecting all around. I want twinkly eyeballs no matter what I'm photographing. And don't photograph people, it turns out. It's the most disappointing thing. And because you know that they look great and your pictures of them just don't. And so it's horribly disheartening. But if you are going to photograph people, you need to remember that you get like a very small bank of photos with people, especially your kids and your grandkids. If my mother-in-law, bless her heart, the phone is ready for a picture all the time. And it's great, like, it's great. I love that we've got all these pictures. But every time she tells somebody to smile at the picture, what do you think happens? Are they smiling? No, because that's weird. Why would you tell someone to smile? If you want somebody to smile, do something that makes them smile. But even more than not saying smile, have your camera ready when you go to take a picture of a person. If I'm like, Trevor, let's make a photograph. Just hang on for about 7 minutes while I remember how this setting works here. Keep smiling while I'm doing this over here. It's not gonna go well, right? Instead, get your camera all ready. Take some photos from 30 feet away of your wife and daughter playing with Legos at your mother-in-law's house on Thanksgiving afternoon. And get the light just right, and then kind of creep down and sit behind the recliner and poke your camera out around the corner before your daughter sees you and make a picture when she doesn't even know she's being in a picture, or else she says, no pictures or no videos when she's 4. And if you photograph people having fun, they're gonna have great expressions on their face. This is why when you came for a headshot with me, I said, Ben, say bumpin' boogie burgers.
Well,
Bumpin' boogie burgers. It's ridiculous. If you can't say it, it doesn't matter. It still makes you giggle because it's a ridiculous thing to say. I want people to smile. I give them something to smile about. I would be leery about hiring somebody who says smile all the time.
I remember when we did our wedding photos.
Yeah.
Our photographer was down on the ground, rolling around,
Uh-huh.
you know, and like making our kid laugh, you know.
Oh, that's great.
You know, or our nephew, nieces and nephews laugh by barking like a dog. It's like,
Yeah,
You're acting like a complete weirdo.
absolutely.
It works. And
Absolutely. If I ever photograph kids and you're nearby, you'll see me pull my key out of my pocket and put it up my head and then scold that key like he has been in the biggest trouble of his life when he falls off my head. And it works on dads, the best of all, because they understand. But here's the biggest tip, the most important thing, and I've already gone 6 minutes over, again, 6 minutes more over. Don't go out looking for a great photograph. You're just gonna be disappointed. Great photographs require great light in a great place with a great thing happening. You gotta have at least 2 of the 3 to make a good photograph. And getting a great one every time is just not likely. This is why my nephew tells me it's called fishing, not catching. Because if you go out to catch fish every time, you're gonna be disappointed and you're not gonna like fishing. But if you go out to enjoy watching water bugs and fish and trees and skills and all kinds of things and enjoying time with whoever you're with and enjoying your experience in the water, you're gonna have a great time every time, even if you don't find any fish. So don't go look for great photographs. Don't seek great photographs. Seek adventure. Seek to make memories. Seek to go see something new. Seek to walk off the trail. Do you know you're allowed to do that in the National Forest? You can just go anywhere you want. Nobody's gonna get you in trouble. And it's okay. I won't tell the Boy Scout leaders. I discovered this just a few years ago and it's changed my life. So walk off the pavement and look for something new. Call a buddy and say, let's go to Tony Grove I know it's closed. We'll walk part of the road and see what happens. Just try something where you are and have a fun time doing it. Thank you.